Hello and welcome to the Jank Bank. How are you? Yes, I am fine also. Thank you for asking. This week on the Jank Bank, we're going to be doing something that not many people in Standard do, because I tend to find that there's two different kinds of Standard players. There's the ones who like to develop and build decks with the latest cards, the newest expansion, they want the shiniest thing, and they want to be the first ones to work with them. And then you get the other kinds of players who are clinging on to decks that they built a year ago and have been refining ever since, and they're trying to wring the last bit of value out of them before they rotate. So that's why, at the time of filming, you tend to get things like Forgotten Realms Dungeons playing against Lurrus Rogues. So what we're doing this week is we're taking a card from that old Lurrus Rogues era, and we're going to introduce it to some of the new cards from the Kaldheim Strixhaven Forgotten Realms era. Which card is it? Well, it's an enchantment called Ominous Seas. Ominous Seas costs 1 blue and 1 other, and it sits out, and every time you draw a card, it gets a counter. Once it has 8 counters, you can cash those counters in for an 8/8 beastie. Wonderful. You can do it over and over again. Ominous Seas saw some play when it was released with Ikoria, because at the same time, Ikoria also released the cycling mechanic. And obviously with cycling, whenever you discard a card, you draw a card, thereby speeding up the number of counters that went on to Ominous Seas. This quickly fell out of favor though because it wasn't fast enough. Ominous Seas was too slow for what that cycling deck wanted to do, and I haven't really seen it played since. But the recent expansions have added in a lot of really powerful, repeatable blue card draw. Wizard's class is great. I mean, initially you cast it for 1 blue and all it does is mean that you've got no limit to your hand size. But level 2 means that you can tap 1 blue and 2 other and you can draw 2 cards. Great, look at that value. Then there's Mordenkainen the Planeswalker, whose +2 is draw 2 cards and put 1 of them back into your deck. That's 2 counters for Ominous Seas. Thirdly, there's Cosima, God of the Voyage, who can come down and sit in the background exiled, gathering counters for every single time you play a land, and when she comes back, draw you a fistful of cards and generate you then, maybe, a fistful of octopuses if you do things right. But there's a lot more fun stuff that goes into the deck than just that. So let's take a look at the 60 cards that make it up.
Here it is, the deck I'm calling Mordenkainen Draw. The point of the deck is quite simply to draw a lot of cards and then to gain benefit from drawing those cards. Ominous Seas is the main way to do that, because if you've got 2 of them out and you're putting counters on them, you're going to get a lot of big creatures. But Wizard's class at level 3 puts +1/+1 counters on creatures for each card you draw, so don't forget that value as well. The nice thing about Wizard's class is that level 2, it's also a card drawing engine, helping you to put extra counters on. There are a lot of card drawing engines in this deck. Firstly, there's Gadwick the Wizard, who just by himself can refill your hand. Then Cosima, God of the Voyage, who will sit nicely in the background helping you to gather more cards. Behold the Multiverse will pick up a few. Seagate Restoration, if you can't use it as a land, it's a wonderful way to refill a hand and to put a bunch of counters on everything. Mazemind Tome gives you a little bit of value and also tops up your life from early in the game when you're going to be taking some damage. Fae of Wishes is there primarily as a blocker, because at 1/4 flying for just 2 mana, it can hold off the early stuff, but don't underestimate being able to fetch something big later on in the game. Divide by Zero is there also for early game, returning stuff, slowing your opponent down. Brazen Borrow will do the same, and is also great when you put a bunch of +1/+1 counters on it. There's Mordenkainen, big card draw, can also create big tokens. Elrond's Epiphany, you get a few of those off, have 3 turns in a row, and the game is basically over. So, let's take a quick look. Obviously, the land base, very simple, it's just islands. Quick look at the sideboard. Cura bests the Sea God. We've only got 1 copy in there because that's generally all you need. Stolen by Fae is a lovely bounce spell because it gives you a couple of blockers to also hold your opponent off and to grow. Fractal Summoning is just what you do with the Learn. Then, of course, Lull Mage's Domination. What an annoying, wonderful card.
So those are the cards. But does it all work? Well, let's take a look at a few games.
Okay, this is a great opening hand because we've got some nice bounce effects, a good blocker. and Amaze My Tome to start drawing cards. We've also got an Ominous Seas. Doesn't matter, make us discard a few things, that's fine. The whole deck is designed to replace those. Disenchant on the Ominous Seas, and a Fracture on the Maze Mine Tome. Alright, somewhat controlling deck. We like to fetch the Lull Mage's Domination early in the game, because obviously what it's there for is to grab dangerous early creatures. And it's much cheaper than the Kiora Best's the Sea God. He's Murderous Ridering our little fairy there. But we can replace our hand. And now we've got the Brazen Borrower that can bounce some stuff. We're not going to bounce that Murderous Rider, allow him to kill another thing. Rather just draw with the Maze Mine Tome. We can steal the Murderous Rider though. Ooh, that feels a little bit like overkill. Destroy your own creature just to get rid of a little Murderous Rider. Now we have one Wizard's class there at level 3, meaning that our tokens now get +1/+1 counters on them whenever we draw a card. Okay, Heliod might be a little bit of a problem, because obviously Heliod can give lifelink to these soldiers and grow them a bit. It might be a bit too slow. Forgot there that Divide by Zero only works on things with a casting cost of 1 or more. Fortunately, I had the Brazen Borrower. Setting up a couple of blockers. And of course now those blockers will grow if we do manage to draw some cards. There we are. Gadwick will now put 5 counters on them. So now they've gone from being annoying little 1/1 crows to 4/4 angels. And unsurprisingly, he clears the board. We do draw a card though for our giant crows. We're getting a lot of mana down now though, and drawing a lot of cards. There's another Ominous Seas at last. Get it on the board as fast as possible. Another Murderous Rider deals with Cassima. Right, now we have enough mana, let's take that Kiora Best's the Sea God. Because really, an 8/8 Kraken creature with hexproof is somewhat intimidating. Particularly when, if you draw a card, you can put 2 +1/+1 counters on it. Elspeth is back for more. Right, let's get that Kraken. Okay. Well, he's giving them both lifelink, hoping to put 2 +1/+1 counters, but we can kill one of them, so it's a fair trade. Right, so now our Brazen Borrow's 5/3 and we've locked them all down. And he's quit. Had enough, right. New game. Again, couple of bounce effects. Mordenkainen there, perhaps a little early, but it's never a bad thing to see Mordenkainen. Let's put down the 2 tap lands now while we've got the time to not take the damage. He hasn't done anything himself, so this is probably a control style deck as well. And not only a control style deck, it's a Wizard's class control style deck. Let's get Cassima down so she can hopefully go on a voyage as quickly as possible. fiddling there with his wizard's class, yeah. Always got to be careful what you touch in Arena, because you do give away your thinking a little bit. Mordenkainen can defend himself with an 8/8 creature. Now, there's not many planeswalkers that generate tokens that big, but all tokens die to unsummons. Ha, one lousy mana. And rip apart the Mordenkainen. To say he was underwhelming is an understatement. Cody, Vociferous Codex. He's obviously there because he gains you benefit for casting big spells. You can't cast permanents, but for each spell you do cast, he will fetch and cast you something for free from your library. So it's obviously a good thing to try and make that happen as little as possible, because effectively your opponent is drawing a card and casting it for free. That's a free card and a lot of free mana every time they use Cody. So I'm going to be trying to bounce Cody and keep him off the battlefield as much as possible. Right. We do have enough mana for the Ikoria Best Sea God, so always nice to fetch that. It feels like some real power on the board. Here we go, we're going to see Cody operate for the first time with an Eldraine's Epiphany. I'm not sure I want that to happen just yet. Let's bounce it back to his hand and go and fetch a Fractal Summoning. He does still get the free card though, which is going to be used to destroy the Ominous Seas. It's another rip apart. And here comes our Ikoria Best, the Sea God. It's always nice to have an 8/8 hexproof Kraken. It just feels like you're a bit safer with one of those on the board. Right, and here comes another one. Now he'll get his Eldraine's Epiphany. And it's another rip apart. So, yeah, as expected, farewell Ikoria Best, the Sea God. At least we get to keep our Kraken. And he's going to kill his own Cody to get rid of our Kraken. That's alright. Cody is back on the board relatively quickly though. Destroy our Maze Mine Tome. Yeah, this is going to come down to just who's capable of controlling who. Clearly we're both trying pretty hard. I don't have as much in this deck, it seems, to deal with things permanently. I can kind of keep them off the board, clog up mana bases while I try and build my own mana base, and hope to find an Ominous Seas relatively soon. Sure, 3 islands. I'm glad I didn't have to wade through that turn by turn. Right, we've got a bit of a board presence now. 5/5 token, 5/7 Kasima, and an unsummon. Runs Epiphany, but at least cast without a Cody on the board, so we've saved ourselves that at least. Serpentine Curve, 13/13. And Cody. Right, let's get some revenge here, I think. How about you see what it's like to have your token returned to your hand? Gadwick the Wizard. We're not going to do him for the full amount because we do want to have some mana left over to actually cast things, and there at last is another Ominous Seas. And a Wizard's class. Gadwick obviously taps things whenever you cast a blue spell, so he actually allows for some quite nice trickery. If you pause the game at somebody's upkeep and you cast a bunch of instants, then you can tap them down using Gadwick the Wizard, and that'll prevent him from actually using his Cody, for instance. because if Cody's tapped, he can't be used in the main phase. Here I am babbling about combat trickery, and he's just laid down 3 big angels. That's also a kind of combat trick, I suppose. Right, we put Cassima away because of that annihilation spell. Okay, so we've put a block there on the upkeep, as explained. Cast the Brazen Borrower, and Gadwick now will tap Cody down after the untap phase, but before the main phase, so that Cody cannot be used. And we'll actually be able to cast all 3 of our... Okay, my explanation is interrupted there as he tries to destroy Gadwick. We can still cast our Brazen Borrowers, still get the effects on the stack before Gadwick dies. So while Gadwick is going out, he is going out in style. He dies, and as one last trick, taps down Cody. Difficult for him to do anything here now because he's also used a bunch of his land to kill Gadwick. It's time that we start trying to put some counters on that Ominous Seas, and the best way to do that is Mordenkainen. And there's another Ominous Seas. The sooner we can get those out on the board, the sooner they can start growing and getting more counters on them. Okay, so Introduction to Annihilation has been used to destroy the larger of the Ominous Seas, which is unfortunate. It was only 2 counters away from producing a creature. Hold command takes out a Brazen Borrower. And now surely he's going to come at Mordenkainen with everything. Yeah, oh, the spirit is actually coming at us. So, because Mordenkainen can handle 1 angel, we'll let him. Mordenkainen will be able to take us to 8 on the Ominous Seas, which means that it's ready to create a creature. And we'll cast another Ominous Seas. And an Elrond's Epiphany. This is where the deck really starts kicking off though. Once you can start bringing back a Cassima, firing a Mordenkainen, putting 8 counters per Ominous Seas per turn. The opponent doesn't have much chance. There you go. He's just going to take the 8. I'll return Cody again. The nice thing about Ominous Seas is you can pull those counters off as an instant. So at any time, in response to an attack, end of their turn, so effectively those creatures have flash. They make a really nice surprise sometimes as people sort of forget about the Ominous Seas. Or at least they can. Velamuckus Lawhold. Let's remind him that if he attacks with everything, there are some large sea creatures waiting. Now he's determined to get rid of Mordenkainen. Which really you should have done ages ago. still we managed to outblock him. Let Mordenkainen take a little bit of damage. The fact that his plus is a +2 is really helpful. In the meantime, we're going to steal that token creature. I mean, he could see that we had the domination, and yet he still cast us a lovely big creature. How kind. Okay, there is an Alrund's Epiphany there, so this should be game. Yep, no blockers. We've got a 2021, and we'll have another turn. But he won't, so that's victory.
So that's the deck. As you can see, there's plenty of opportunity for a lot of varied and explosive types of play. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and if you did, please let me know in the comment section. If you hated it, let me know in the comment section. Otherwise, click the subscribe button, ring the bell. I've got to design thumbnails for every single video, and they won't let me put them up until I've got 100 subscribers. So, tell your friends. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next week.